James Kemp and Lieutenant, U.S. Navy. There were some really interesting stuff on board. This is old equipment. There was something they called RSPE, R-S-P-E, Radar Signal Processing Equipment. It's actually the forerunner of some of the more advanced combat systems that are out there now, and forerunner to some of the processing in the close-in weapons system, CWIS, that defends ships now. And what's interesting here is that nobody on board knew anything about it. It had been laid up, whatever, decommissioned a long time ago. We had a reservist. This is legitimate. The name was Einstein. He was either a fire controlman first or second, I forget which. And he was freaking brilliant. He took this thing apart. This was a transistor, a whole series of transistor components that became this, essentially an analog fire control computer. And this thing, when this thing went live, and he fixed it. When this thing went live, it turned the after director, one of the gun directors, into essentially a 5-inch CWIS system. It would automatically track targets, automatically find them, track them, direct the guns out to them. It was really, really cool. I think we fired with it only once, just because we didn't need it, right? But it was very interesting how you had the reserve components come on, and they come with skills. You know, this guy was an electrical engineer. He'd been doing it for decades, but he was still part of the reserves. So he picked up skills that they weren't prepared to teach in the A schools. It was really something what he could do. And there was a lot of that with the reservists. We would do gunfire practice, naval gunfire support practice, at a place called Bloodsworth Island in Chesapeake Bay. I'm not sure if it's still active as a firing range. At least I heard, I think maybe it's not. But we've been there a few times. This is the real memory I have, the fun part, was I'd always be down well, either in CIC doing gun plots, or down in the fire control computer room, just overseeing, making sure that things were set up properly for the shoots. And there was this tree. It was supposedly the last standing tree in the firing range, and the Bloodsworth people of the gun control range asked us, you know, like, can you take the tree down? And we let loose on the tree. I believe we had, at one point we had all 3 firing on it. Most of it, maybe only 2. But we let loose on the tree. I don't know how many rounds we fired at it, but the tree was done. It was still like, there's our target. That's in the later part of its life. It did real work in Vietnam, but in the later part of its life, there, it took out the tree. We would go into Weapons Station Earl in Brereton Bay here in New Jersey to reload. And we had they called them Mavericks, the officers that come up through the ranks. This guy had been a bosun mate master chief. Went through OCS, worked his way up. He was now a full commander. He'd been in freaking forever. And he didn't need no tugs. This is a twin-screw destroyer. Get in and out of anywhere. And if need be, you know, you throw some lines over, you warp it in with the capstan. You know, you don't need tugs. Well, Earl kind of took it as a challenge. I don't think they liked it that we didn't need their tugs. But they took it as a challenge, so they'd set it up so it was hard to get in. And never stopped him. Never stopped him. The one really interesting incident that was coming out, we had breeze blowing us onto the pier. And right behind us were concrete barges. Now, I don't know what you keep in concrete barges, but they were there. And we're trying to get out. We're moving out, and something went a little wrong. We caught a screw guard on something, maybe on a part of the pier. Got loose of that, but we were coming up on the very sharp corner of one of the concrete barges. So the ship actually contacted the concrete barge, cut a little crease above the waterline. The hull technicians came out, welded, fixed it. But That was the interesting part of that. They worked to make it as hard as possible for us to get in and out, so we'd have to use a tug. Never did. Only once did we run into a problem.